about
And
Bitcoin that will
it's a
span
very
from what makes it
secretive indicator
special
that apparently not a lot
to
of people know
the
about. So it's
its
kind of
relationship
cool.
with energy, the
Yeah,
community
so I'm going to show
ethos,
you guys
and
how
the
to
future
set
of
this
Bitcoin.
up. I
I'm
will show you
joined
guys all the
by three
strategies. It's
special
great for
guests.
5-minute scalping,
First is Kathy
and it's a
Wood,
great buy sell indicator,
founder,
right? Like
CEO, and CIO
it's
of
super,
ARK
super
Invest.
accurate. And I'll show you guys how to filter out
Next
some
is
false
Elon
signals and
Musk,
stuff as well.
techno
So
king
keep
of
watching till
Tesla
the
and chief
end.
engineer
All
of
right.
SpaceX.
And yeah,
And
let's
finally,
get right into it. So
Jack
the
Dorsey,
platform that I use is
CEO of Square
TradingView. Get
and
into
CEO of
TradingView.
Twitter. So we have a lot to talk
This
about
is not what your
today.
chart's going to
So
look like.
let's
So
get
let's
to
go ahead
the
and
talk
X
and get
out,
right
and
to
I'll
it.
show you guys exactly how to set
I'm
up
going to start
this
off by
stuff.
asking
So
each of
once
you
get into
a question,
TradingView,
which is
this is what your chart's going to look like. So
what's
the first thing we're
shaped
going
and
to do, we're
influenced
going to
your
move
views
the
on
Fibonacci.
Bitcoin?
We're going to put
And
the
let's start
candles
with
into
Kathy.
Fibonacci mode.
Okay,
Right.
Steve,
The first
thank you.
indicator that we're gonna
Well,
do
the first thing was
is
our
called
focus on disruptive innovation.
VENKY,
So starting
Venky's
in
scalping
2011,
signals, right?
Brett Winton,
So
our
far, it's
director
only
of
got
research, who I know will be on the
people that I
program
guess
later,
follow it or whatnot, so it's
he started
relatively new.
talking about this thing called
Once
Bitcoin
we
at the
add
time.
that,
And it
it
was a
is super,
curiosity
super
as we were
busy and
doing our
annoying.
brainstorms
So
in research.
I
But
like
as we
my
learn more
charts to
about
be
this open
clean.
source
So we're gonna go into
ecosystem
the settings.
that might fulfill the role
style.
of the payment
We're gonna
system
uncheck
that the
everything except for a
internet
few things. So if
neglected
you
to
guys want,
build
please do follow
into the
along.
system, not
And as I'm
expecting
doing this, I
commerce.
just have to put
We
this
thought,
disclaimer out there,
this
right? None of
might
this
be
stuff is
something.
financial advice.
And then I
So
became even
for
more
information
interested
purposes
when I
only.
realized that
Yep,
my
not financial advice. So let's
economics
start
would come
unchecking
into
these.
play as
Oh yeah, and
well
before,
here.
man, some
And
of you guys have
Art
been like
Laffer,
commenting on here, which is
my
kind of starting to
mentor
get annoying
from USC,
how these are not my,
and a
I'm like,
monetary
I never
scholar,
claimed these are my
in
strategies,
2014,
all
I
right?
asked
I've
him if he
never,
would
like, I
collaborate
use
on a
these.
paper
I
on
never ever
Bitcoin.
claim
And
that
he was a bit of a
invented
naysayer
these
at
or I
first, and
created these
but
strategies.
agreed to
Like,
read the paper. He
I've
read the
got a, you know,
paper,
I've got an
tore it
amazing
up,
audience that's super supportive. So I make these
and from an
videos
economics point
to
of
show
view,
you
really
guys
wanted to understand this. And he
strategies that
said,
I find
you
that
know,
I think you
you
guys
got
could find
something here.
beneficial.
This is a
I never claim that I
rules-based
make these
monetary
strategies up or I'm
system.
the creator
I've
of
been
these.
waiting
So
for
please
this
don't
for
get,
my entire
don't get
career.
hurt, don't get your
So the
feelings hurt and
combination
stuff
of
like that,
disruptive innovation
because
generally,
you've seen it somewhere
economics
else,
on
because
top of that,
I
and
never
the
ever
huge
claimed that I
misunderstanding
created
out
these,
there
right? I'm
as
just
to
showing
what
it to you
this
guys, and
is,
hopefully I'm explaining
that
it a little
was
bit better and simpler for
intriguing
you guys to
and
follow
launched
along.
our research effort.
So yeah, just
Thank
enjoy
you.
and, you know, keep
Elon,
the hate away,
what's
man.
influenced your views on Bitcoin?
Positive energy only. So
Well,
the two things we will
thought about
keep
money
on
for
here
quite a
is
while,
the
obviously,
entry,
since the
exit
PayPal
arrows and
days.
the MA trend line, and we're gonna get
The
rid of everything
and then
else.
like
And
the companies that
we'll keep
preceded
this
that,
right here as well.
X.com, which I
Okay?
created, and
So as you can see,
Confinity,
we
which
went into settings, we
Peter Thiel,
unchecked
Max Levchin,
everything while I was
Luke Howry, and
ranting
others
a little
created.
bit.
When we
And
combined the companies and made
we're gonna keep the entry,
PayPal.
exit
So
arrows, the MA
I've been
trend
thinking about
line,
money for a long
these on,
time.
click OK.
And
Much cleaner, right?
really, it's
Much
best to think of money as an information system.
Now, the second
primarily an
indicator that we're
information
gonna
system
add
for labor
is
allocation.
called the Williams percent.
And for practical purposes,
right
it
here.
exists in a series
The
of
one by
heterogeneous databases, like
Okay.
very different
Let's add
databases in bank
I'm gonna make some
mainframes around the
changes to
world.
this too to make it look
It
a little bit
moves quite slowly in
different.
reality. It may seem to move fast sometimes, and it does with
First,
PayPal,
we're
which
gonna
is real
change-
time.
well,
But the vast majority of the
don't
systems
really
out
care
there
for
are
this, but we're gonna
batch
change
processing.
that
So the actual
to 40.
reconciliation may take
And you know
1
what?
to 5
Yeah, I'm just gonna take it
business
off.
days,
I don't wanna
sometimes
look at all
longer.
this stuff.
And you have the ACH system, which is
Click OK.
ancient and still in
So
operation,
much
which is
cleaner looking chart
allows
now.
transfers effectively
So
like
what
a check would be an
exactly are we
ACH
doing
transfer, but
strategy-wise
it's
on
not
here, or
secure.
what are-
And you've got
how do you
the
filter out some
credit
bad
card
trades?
systems, which are also not secure.
So,
It would be like handing your
number one,
username and
you're gonna
password
look
to
for
a stranger in a
signals
restaurant
that,
if you
you
buy a
know,
meal.
the VSS
So,
right here, right? This shows you
there's
the
definitely an
buy
opportunity
and sell
for
signals.
something
But
that
we're
is
gonna filter those
better
out
from an information
according
theory
to
standpoint.
the
So
Willy right here.
and
But the main thing
there
that
you can think
need
of it
to
like
look out
data
for
on a
is you
network.
need-
I think
like,
is the way to view it.
this-
What has the most
line has to be
throughput?
green for you to
What
do buy
has
signals. The price
the
action has
least
to be
error?
above that to
Lost
do buy
what
signals.
drops the fewest packets?
And
Fraud,
to
for
sell,
example,
it
being a
has to
source of
be
error.
below the red. Okay, so
And
like this is a false signal. I
government
wouldn't
interference
get into
in
this stuff.
currencies being a source of error.
The other thing,
But it's fundamentally an
to keep in
information
mind is
system.
when you get a
So
buy signal,
I think it makes sense
or
to
sell
support
signal,
something that
this line right
improves
here,
the
look at the slope.
the quality
Again,
of
that's going to
information
be
with
subjective
which
to
we
opinion,
conduct the
but at the
economy.
same time, you know, if
And
you're really paying
Bitcoin
attention,
is
hopefully you
a
know
candidate
when
for
you
that.
can see a line
it
going
is,
down
it does, I think,
or a line
something
going up, or
Well,
a line
and it's
staying
obviously it's
flat,
evolving, and there are
right?
additional things like
this would
Lightning being
not be a
done
buy
on
signal
top of
because number
Bitcoin.
one, the line is flat.
But Bitcoin per se is
This
mostly solving
gives you a buy
for
signal, but it doesn't matter
scarcity,
because this line is
or
not
rather
green,
solving
and the price
for
action is not above it. Okay.
essentially
So those are the things
having no throat
not
to
to
choke,
do.
decentralized.
What kind of stuff should you be looking out for?
There's
and
no
how
one
do
who
you-
can be
oh man, this looks like a good
coerced in any
opportunity,
way
actually, you know what?
to
This might be a this
empty
might be a
their
buy
Bitcoin
now.
account. Well, I guess they could technically buy on an individual
So
basis,
basically
but the
what you're
system as a
looking
whole
for
cannot.
is
And
a buy signal.
and it has an open ledger,
You see
which
the line
is
kind of trending
also
up somewhat.
quite good.
It's green.
But transaction
If you
volume
zoom in, you
is
can see
low.
that it's green.
Transaction cost is
And
high.
over here, the yellow line is above the
and
blue line.
usability
So
for
that's
the
going to be the
average person
second indicator, right, that
is
you're going
not
to be
yet very
using.
good. But it has a lot of
Is
potential.
When you
And I should
get
say
a buy
that,
signal,
like, I'm
you
not.
wanna make
I
sure that
apologize
the
for taking a long
the
time,
yellow
but
line is
there's certainly
above
is
the
lots
blue
to say.
when you get a
In general,
sell
I'm a
signal,
supporter of
you want to
Bitcoin
make sure that the yellow line
and
is below
the
the
idea
blue
of
line.
cryptocurrency in general.
Okay, so the yellow line is going to be how you're
But
going
as
to
I've said
filter
publicly,
out
we do
and
need to
increase the
watch
win
out
rate
for
of this.
crypto
Okay?
taking,
So
especially
this
Bitcoin,
right here,
using proof of work to maybe
honestly,
use
I wouldn't really
energy
take
that's
something
maybe
like
a
this just
bit
because
too
this
much
line is flat.
and not necessarily
Relatively, it's not like trending up or down or
good for the
anything like
environment.
that.
So,
So let's
but
kind
on
of look at
balance,
some
I support
examples
Bitcoin,
of trades that would be like
I'm not an
ideal.
investor.
And again,
The only
not every
publicly
trade
traded
is going to
stock
be
I own is
ideal.
Tesla.
But we're going to
And
look
the
for, we're
only
going to try to put ourselves
significant thing I
some
own
good
outside of
positions.
Tesla
Like,
is
this is not a trade
my
because
SpaceX
you
stock
got a down signal to sell. But the line is green.
Help
It's
create both
trending
companies.
up,
So,
and the yellow line is still above
but apart
the
from
blue line.
that,
It hasn't crossed over
I do
yet.
own Bitcoin.
This would be a great
and
sell
Tesla
signal
owns Bitcoin,
because right
SpaceX
here,
owns Bitcoin, and then I do
kind of-
personally
it's
own a
trending
bit of
down.
Ethereum and Dogecoin, of course.
you get a sell signal, price action
Great,
closed.
thank you. And we'll get into some of those issues
below-
in more depth as well.
below
Jack, how about you?
the
What
red
shaped
line.
your
It
views
is
of
red.
Bitcoin?
And over here, you see how
the network
yellow
and the
line
community.
has crossed
You know,
below
it's
the blue line, right?
it's deeply principled. It's weird as hell. It's always evolving, and it just reminded me
some
of the internet when I was a kid.
that this would be an
And
amazing
I
trade because
encountered alt
you get a buy
cypherpunks
signal,
when I was
the
fairly
yellow line
young,
is
and
above the blue, but
this
it's
was
still
a topic
trending
of
down.
discussion for
So,
years.
you know,
I
for
didn't
something like
touch
that,
it
I might wait a
until
little bit to make sure that
2008 when we
the
started
trend
Square.
continues kind of up, but I wouldn't have
You know,
gone for this anyway.
Elon and teams at
And one
X
thing that
and
you'll
PayPal
realize,
inspired a
and
lot
if
of
you
what
guys
we were trying
follow
to
me
do,
on Telegram
trying to
for
bring
my
in more to a
free
physical
trader,
world.
if
But
you
we
guys are members
encountered
of my Patreon where you get
this
to check out
crazy
all of my
predatory
trades,
system
right? Links are in the description below,
that
by
was
the way.
slow, that was
Like, you'll
obtuse,
notice,
and I
I
think,
don't take a lot of
you know,
trades.
one of the things that we tried to do,
I
which
take a decent
X
amount
and
of
PayPal
trades
also tried to do, is
because I
build an
like
abstraction
the
layer
probability
around
of success
this
to be
complication
higher. You don't,
and
to be a
around
successful
this
trader, you
predatory
don't need to be
nature that the
trading
financial industry
every
can tend to
single
be,
signal.
and make it
You
work
have
for
to be
people.
picky and
But
choosy about that stuff because
when
in the long run,
I saw
you have
Bitcoin
to
in
pick your
2009,
spots. So here's
you
a
see a
great
chance to
opportunity,
replace the whole foundation.
right?
And everything that
It's starting to
Elon was
trend
talking
up
about in
from
terms of
being
ACH
down,
and
right?
the
You
credit
get your
card
buy
networks
signal right here. The
were
yellow
built with
line is
very
above the
different
blue line.
agendas
This
and
would
a
have been
very
a
different
great little
time frame,
sell.
and it's crazy that they still exist and
Yeah.
they have scaled, but they
Again,
just
this
are
would
not
be pretty
relevant
good too
to
because
today,
it's
and they're certainly not relevant to the
starting to come
future,
down.
especially when you
You see
consider
the down arrow.
the entire world and countries like
see
Nigeria or
yellow
Ghana
line
or
below the
India,
blue line, great
and its
sell,
interconnection
swing it
with
down.
countries like the United
And this works
States
great
and
on the
Canada
5-minute
and
chart,
all
by
over
the way.
Europe.
Like, this is, you
So
know, one of the comments that I usually get is what time
really
frames
drove
is the stuff
my
good for?
thinking and drives
I'm
my
looking at
passion
these
around
charts
it
for the
is
5-minute time frame.
if the internet gets a
So on the
chance to get a
5-minute
native
time frame,
currency,
this works great on. It works on
what will that be?
crypto,
And
stocks,
to me, it's
forex,
Bitcoin because of those
anything that has
principles,
price
because
action.
of that
So yeah,
creation
you guys
story,
could use
because
this
of
buy-sell signal on
its
TradingView
resilience,
on
because of the
any
number
of
of
those
tests it's
different
been.
things. You know,
But
one of the things that I really like.
what
to trade is
inspires me the
Apple.
most is just the community driving it. It just
So,
reminds me of the
let's see
early
if
internet.
this has some
It's
good
the only
signals for
reason that I
Apple,
have a career, because I learned so much from people
You gotta make
like
sure
who are building
everything lines
Bitcoin
up.
today.
This one
And
could
I
have been
continue to learn
bad.
in
You
that
see the
sense,
line
and
going
I'm so
down,
grateful for it.
right? Fall signal.
That's a good segue into the next question I'd like to ask you, Jack. Is you said
yellow line
before
isn't
the
above the blue line, and
Bitcoin
it's still
changes
trending red.
everything.
So you're
Can
looking
you
for
speak more to
sell.
that?
So when you get this,
Well,
yellow line is below the blue
I just
line.
think that
It's
you know,
red. It's
a
trending
lot of what we
down.
experience in life,
This would have been
when you
pretty
really
good.
get down to to the foundation. a lot of our monetary policies, a lot of our monetary
This would have been a
systems
nice little
cause so
quick one
much
for just
distraction
10,
and so much
15,
cost.
just a few bars, right?
And when you get to a
Here's another
system
good one.
where you have the potential for
Starting
people to
slow
truly
back
own
down,
it, they can verify it
you get the
themselves.
sell signal.
You don't have to
Yellow
have
line
trust
is
going in.
below the
You don't have
blue
to trust it
line.
at all. You can
I'm swinging
verify it
down right there.
through source code or whatever your appetite is.
So it looks like
And
things are about to
that
go up in
any
the next few minutes
particular
from what
person
this is looking
can
like. So this
help
is
drive
great that you guys get to
the
see
future
this
of
kind
it.
live, right?
And at the
Because this
same
got triggered
time, it's
about
not
10
controlled
minutes
by
ago.
any state. It's
You
not
get in
controlled
on
by
this
any bank.
candle
It's
because
not
this was
controlled
the
by any
trigger candle,
corporation.
right? You always wait for the trigger candle to close.
And these three parties
This right
of
here,
people who participate in
yellow
the
line
network,
above the blue
people who
line,
mine, and also the
and
developers
it's green, so it's
constantly
looking like it's
debating
trending up some.
the correct roadmap
So
and the
yeah,
way
this
forward
is kind of cool.
is a beautiful thing. And I don't know of many other
So
consensus-based
yeah,
models that have existed at
that's
that
basically
scale
the
for this
strategy,
long
you know.
with this amount of
So if
success.
you guys have
And we're
any
still
questions,
fairly
of
early.
course you can
So
reach out to me through my
when,
Patreon.
you know, I met a woman in Ethiopia
Yeah, follow my free Telegram channel
2
for
years
my
ago,
weekly free trades.
and she was trying to create the
you guys
lift
can
for
follow along if you
Ethiopia.
guys like. Again,
Elon,
not
I think I
financial
reached out to
advice.
you at that time as well because she
And
really wanted some
then,
Teslas.
you guys can just check out all the trades that I make in
still
my
has
Patreon.
to
I
take
post those
paper
almost on a
fiat
daily
cash
basis whenever I take
from
trades
her
and whenever I
passengers
exit out.
and
So you
pay
guys know exactly
all of
what
her
I'm getting in
drivers
and
in the
getting out
same
of my
way
personal
because there's
trades.
no monetary system
If you
that
guys
she
found
can
any
utilize.
value
There's
in
nothing
this,
digital.
please do hit that subscribe
And
button
Africa as a continent
and click the bell
is
for notifications
hugely
about my
interconnected
future videos.
from
And
a
please do
monetary
hit that like
standpoint,
button
but
on here and
also
drop me a comment
hugely
about what you thought
taxed
about
in that
this.
same way.
Right?
So a lot of the
let's actually,
potential
before
that
we end the video,
I
let's
see,
go ahead and take a
you know,
look
the
at
internet
some
having a native currency
other stuff, because I know people
helps
are
her build
always
her
asking if
business
this stuff works good
in
for
a
Forex
much
and
faster
stuff.
way.
So let's look at some Forex
And also, if you
examples.
consider
Eeny, meeny,
something
miny,
like
moe,
Bitcoin
let's just
existing
do
before
Euro JPY, I guess.
YouTube, before Twitter, before Facebook,
Let's go
a lot of the business models that we have today would not
Alright,
be
cool.
the same.
It just triggered
We
a
would
signal
not.
right
We
there
would
as
certainly
well.
not have the dependency we have upon the
And
advertising
if
business
you
model
saw
if
this
Bitcoin
would've
existed
been a
pre-Twitter.
quick
And
scalp,
I
down
think the
arrow.
amount of business models that it
It's
enables,
trending down,
the amount
as
of
you can
innovation it
see.
enables going
There you
forward,
go. Yellow
especially
line
when you
below the
can
blue
consider
line.
the whole
Again,
internet
right
instead
here,
of going country
another
by
down
country by
signal.
country by country, which you have to
Yellow
whenever you're
line below
dealing
the
with
blue line.
finance.
Yeah,
It really just opens the aperture.
I feel like this
And
is a fairly accurate indicator.
that
and
is
I know
what I
a lot
want
of
to see
people
in my
hate on
lifetime
indicators and
is a
stuff. I love
currency
using
that is
indicators.
standard and sound for the internet that everyone can use.
Yeah. As you can see, it
Great.
calls out a decent amount of
A
signals.
hallmark of Bitcoin is its fixed
Great
supply of
swing right
21
there.
million coins. Elon referenced that
Right.
earlier. It may be the first
Right there
system
as well,
that humans
right
have
here.
created that humans cannot later change. Kathy, I'm curious,
And then
with your
this is
background
kinda cool
in
because it kinda
monetary
keeps you away
history
from,
and
the
macroeconomics,
range bound
what are your
stuff,
thoughts on that?
right?
That type
So
of system.
this way it's
Oh, well,
actually
I'll just
catching you, you're
I'll
catching in on
recount
some of those swings.
the story
kinda cool.
about Art
Red,
Laffer
red,
and
yellow line
and
below the
our
blue line,
going
swinging
through the
down.
paper.
All right. Well, watch this
And
other video that I've got
he
coming
said,
up next. Click
as
on
I said,
it. It's one of my favorite
first
strategies as well.
rules-based
One of my
monetary
best,
system,
favorite
global,
trading you buy sell
ever.
indicators for 5
This
minutes
is
scalping.
a
Check it
very
out,
big
and I'll see you guys
idea.
on the
Once
next
we had
one.
convinced him of the
What is
of
going
the
on,
ecosystem
everybody? Welcome back to my
itself.
channel. And this
Now, this
video,
is
man, I'm gonna blow you guys
the role that it's
mind with
playing,
this
given that the
strategy
rule
that I
is
just
a
recently
quantity rule,
discovered.
that 21
And
million units,
it's a very
is
secretive
really
indicator
a
that
store
apparently
of
not a lot of
value
people know about. So
role.
it's kind of
So
cool.
there are 3 roles of money.
Yeah,
Store of
so I'm gonna
value,
show you
very
guys how to set
important.
this up. I will show you guys what the strategy is. It's
The
great for
means of
5-minute scalping.
exchange.
And
So
it's
for
a great buy-sell
transactions,
indicator, right?
and
Like,
the unit of
it's
account.
super accurate. And I'll show you guys how to filter out some
every
false signals
good
and stuff
priced
as well.
in terms
So keep watching till the
of
end,
whatever the
all
unit
right?
is.
And
So store of value
let's get right
is
into it. So the
its
platform
primary
that I use
use
is
right
TradingView.
now.
Get into TradingView.
The others exist.
.com.
Unit of
This is not
account,
what your chart's
reserve
gonna
currency
look
of the
like.
crypto
So let's
asset
go ahead and X
ecosystem.
out, and I'll
That's
show you
being
guys exactly
seeded
how
a
to
little
set all
bit
this stuff
towards
up. So once you get into
stable coins right
TradingView,
now. But the
this
store of
is what your
value
chart's
is
gonna look like.
a
So the first
very
thing we're
big
gonna do,
role.
we're gonna
And
move the
means of exchange with
Fibonacci.
apps
We're gonna
built
put the
on
candles into
top
Fibonacci
of
mode.
the Bitcoin blockchain,
Right? The first
we
indicator
think is
that we're
going
gonna
to
do
become more of a
is
reality.
called
Right now, high value
Venki
transactions
scalping
take place
signals, right?
over
So far, it's
Bitcoin,
only got
and
469 people
that
that I
is
guess
a
follow
very
it or
useful
whatnot,
role.
so it's relatively
So
new.
we look at those, and I remember saying to
we
Art,
add
"How
that,
big could this this be?
It
And
is
he said,
super,
well,
super
how
busy
big
and
is the
annoying.
US
So
monetary base? Well,
I like
today
my
it's
charts to be
$8 trillion.
clean, so we're going to go into the
$8 trillion.
settings.
At the time we were talking, it was $4 trillion. So we've gone through another crisis since
everything
then.
except for a few things. So
And so the store of value, this idea that purchasing power will go up over time if demand rises relative to supply. Supply ultimately fixed at 21 million units. That's a very good thing. Purchasing power going up globally around the world. And this idea that it's a hedge against confiscation of wealth, and that can take place in a myriad of ways, but inflation, and especially hyperinflation in emerging markets, is the primary way. Talk about destroying purchasing power. So that's a very big idea. And I'll also mention deflation. In some ways, it's a hedge against deflation. I know some people are confused that we at ARK think that we're in a deflationary environment here in the United States. If that is true, the odds of a hyperinflation in the rest of the world, especially in emerging markets, is also true. But this deflation, and we learned from 08-09, there's counterparty risk associated with deflation, and I think Bitcoin would be a hedge against that eventuality as well. So it's a very big idea.
And we'll keep this right here as well.
I suspect among us, there's not a lot of debate about Bitcoin's potential as a store of value. But Jack, you referenced earlier it being or becoming native currency of the internet. Can you speak more to that, and also how it relates to maybe how institutions think about it?
Now, the second indicator that we're going to add.
Yeah, I mean, like just a simple example. If I happen to be in Ghana and my family's in Nigeria. Currently, I can take anywhere from,
let's add that.
and I need to send money back, anywhere from 10 to 30% off the top just to send that money back. Whereas if you just focus on the worldwide remittance problem, Bitcoin solves so many of those problems today instantly without having to go through any intermediaries or any slowness or complicated systems that a corporation or a state created. So I think you know, having sound money that is separate from the state is the idea. Having it completely verifiable by everyone, including the state, including corporations, including individuals, including developers who want to build on top of it, is quite powerful, and that's what keeps it secure and strong. And I think that's, you know, we need more of that, which is why this, one of the reasons why this conversation is so important is as entities come into the space, it's not just buying an asset and holding on to an asset and treating it as an investment. There's something special that created this, and something precious and something very unique, which has to be protected, and we need to do whatever we can to help that thrive as well.
Elon, I'm curious your opinion on this. You mentioned earlier about Bitcoin's throughput, or the importance of throughput, maybe some concerns around Bitcoin.
Look at the slope.
Can you speak? Again, do you think Bitcoin can become peer-to-peer?
But at the same time, you know, if you're really paying attention,
well,
hopefully you
Bitcoin does have a fundamental scarcity limit at the base layer that's designed in.
Right?
That doesn't mean you can't have some layer 2 system in theory like Lightning. And I understand Lightning is doing well in some small countries.
But it doesn't matter because
there's some question mark as to whether you need a money transmitter license. Just a debate as to whether that's needed, given that it is
what
not
kind of stuff should you be
open ledger. So
oh man, this looks like a good opportunity.
And that's a whole separate debate, of course.
This might be a
but Bitcoin by itself simply cannot scale to be the monetary system for the world at base layer. But with a second layer, this is possible depending upon how that second layer is implemented.
It's green.
And yeah, that's part of why I think there may be some merit.
And over here, the yellow line is above the blue line, so that's going to be the second indicator, right?
May seem silly, like Ethereum, like Dogecoin. I think Ethereum also, the three things I own outside of SpaceX and Tesla, and obviously it's Neuralink and Boring Company, but of any significance are Bitcoin by far, and then some Ethereum and some Doge. So you know, if the price of Bitcoin goes down, I lose money. I'm not sort of, I might pump, but I don't dump.
Take something like this just because this line is flat.
So,
relatively, it's not like
it's not a case of.
like that.
I definitely do not believe in getting the price high and selling or anything like that.
Trades that would be like
and I would like to see Bitcoin succeed.
Not every trade is going to be ideal.
I think there's some merit to. This is not a slam on Bitcoin. There's some merit to considering
to sell.
Something that has higher max transaction rates and lower transaction costs, and kind of seeing how far you could take a single layer network where the exchanges act as a de facto second layer. I think you could probably take that further than people realize, and as bandwidth increases over time, latency decreases. SpaceX's Starlink is actually playing a role in this, and I think long term people will probably have access to worldwide access to gigabit level connectivity at low latency, and so at low cost, and so then your base layer can do a lot of transactions if you take that into account.
For something like that, I might wait a little bit to make sure.
Yeah, but like I said, Bitcoin with a layer 2 system certainly could scale to do a vast number of transactions. Same goes for Ethereum.
On Telegram for my free
question about the scaling at the layer 1. The concern from the past 5 years of debate in the Bitcoin community is that would sacrifice too much
I take a decent amount of
decentralization
because
and hurt the censorship-resistant properties of Bitcoin.
You don't, to be a successful trader, you don't need to be trading.
What are your thoughts on that? Are you sensitive to that? And are you concerned about losing some of the special properties of Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency by scaling at layer 1?
So here's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, these things are helpful to use the physics tools of thinking and say, scale up, scale down, and see if it still makes sense. So if scaling up the transaction block doesn't make sense, why don't you scale it down? And have it be, so that somebody, with a laptop from 2008 can still run a Bitcoin node. Why not slow it down? Oh, you want to slow it down?
Yellow line below.
Well, maybe you're at the wrong number then.
Swing it down. And this works great on the 5 minute.
There's actually people, there are members in the community that do want to slow it down.
What time frames
but I understand your
it's silly.
I'm looking at these charts for the 5 minute.
The reality is, like, the average person is not going to run
5 minute time frame. This works
a Bitcoin node.
It works on crypto,
this is
stocks, forex,
and Bitcoin, a lot of clever ideas, but these parameters were set, I don't know, in 2008 or something, maybe 2009. And there've been some improvements since then, but not a lot. So
some good signals for Apple.
it's sort of like if there was still in 2008 there was still a non-trivial number of people on modems. So now it is quite common to get 100 megabit
so you're looking for cell. So when
connection
you get this,
just for a house. Some houses have gigabit connections.
It's red.
So
it's trending down,
and that trend is obviously in the direction of higher bandwidth and lower latency. And if somebody else doesn't do it, Starlink certainly will. So I have high confidence that you will be able to maintain a decentralized finance system while still having a much bigger blockchain, aka ASCII text ledger.
You get the cell signal.
A hash ledger.
Is below the blue line.
You can make the hash ledger bigger
right there.
Without suffering from decentralization as the average connectivity improves. Obviously.
Next few minutes from what this is looking like.
What idea would be to run or to put a Bitcoin full node in Starlink?
This got triggered about 10 minutes ago.
That way, more people would
get in on this candle because this was the trigger.
Actually,
you always wait for the
I have run this by the team at one point.
This right here. Yellow line above the
I had this idea, which is kind of off the wall, but like, let's say you need a little space heater.
This is
and normally your space heater would just be pure entropy. Well, what if that's